just walking in. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Institute of Certified Management Accountants of Sri Lanka, it's a warm welcome to the CMA Founders Day and felicitation of founder members. For me, it's an honor, privilege, and a real pleasure to be associated with this very special occasion. Right at the outset, we extend a very warm welcome to our chief guest this evening, Dr. P.B. Sundara, Secretary of the Institute of Finance and Planning, and our guest of honor this evening, Professor Udita Liyanage, Director, Postgraduate Institute of Management. In keeping with tradition, we'd like to start off with the lighting of the oil lamp, and can I please invite our chief guest, Dr. P.B. Sundara, also our guest of honor, Professor Udita Liyanage, Dr. G.C.B. Singha, Chairman Advisory Council, Founder President CMA, Professor Lakshanan Vatavala, Mr. Hemaka Amarasuriya, Member Advisory Council, Mr. Jeevanandan, representing the Ministry of Cooperatives and Internal Trade, Mr. M.B. Ismail, Treasurer CMA Sri Lanka, Mr. F.H. Pimana Singha, Council Member CMA Sri Lanka, Mr. S.C. Sapra Singha, Council Member CMA Sri Lanka, Mr. T. Someswaran, Council Member CMA Sri Lanka, Mrs. M. R. N. Kasichetty, Council Member CMA Sri Lanka, Professor Mandala Fonseca, Council Member CMA Sri Lanka, Mr. F.N. Hinnatavanda, Council Member CMA Sri Lanka, Mr. Aruna Chavikrama, Founder Member CMA Sri Lanka, Mr. L.B. Wattegadra, Executive Director CMA, and Ms. Ganesha Virushi, one of the finalists who's passed the examination, the best student of the November 2012 examination, to also like the oil lamp in keeping with tradition. May I please request all of you to rise for the national anthem. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I, as a copy, I welcome all of you, but to formally deliver the welcome address, I have the pleasure of inviting a dynamic personality. He's a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Sri Lanka, fellow of the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants, and fellow of the Institute of Certified Management Accountants of Sri Lanka. He's the former chairman and director general of the Board of Investments of Sri Lanka, former chairman of People's Bank, People's Merchant Bank, State Mining and Minerals Development Corporation, and the Ceylon Leather Products Corporation, and committee member of the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce. He was also the past president of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Sri Lanka and South Asian Federation of Accountants, and founder president, AAT Sri Lanka, and the past president, Organization of Professional Associations of Sri Lanka. He also serves on the board of directors of several public listed companies. Ladies and gentlemen, to formally deliver the welcome address on this very special occasion, I have the pleasure of inviting the founder president of CMA, Professor Lakshman R. Vatabala. I'm sure we can put our hands together and give you a round of applause.
Chief guest this evening, Dr. P.B. Jayasundara, the Secretary, Ministry of Finance and Planning. The guest of honor, Professor Udita Liyanage, Dr. D.C.P. Vijay Singha, Chairman of the CMA Advisory Council, who will be delivering the CMA Founders Day oration. Mr. Aruna Jalikrama, founder member, Mr. Bashir Ismail, treasurer of CMA, council members, distinguished invitees, fellow members, founder members, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed a very special day for us. In fact, for the CMA, since today we are paying gratitude to those who have really got together to form the CMA. It was really in 1999 that the CMA, termed the Society of Certified Management Accountants of Sri Lanka, was formed. At that time, we also had to get certain approvals to set up this body, and I remember the Minister of Trade at that time, Honorable Kingsley Vikramaratne, who was really taken up with this idea because he felt that this was a necessity for Sri Lanka. The management accounting profession, the role that they could play, the amount of foreign exchange that they could save for the country, and also to enable our Sri Lankan students, the youth of this country, to enable them to follow a management accounting qualification at a very cheap price or an affordable price. If you look at our region, India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, or even if you look at the Western or other countries, of course you have in the UK, you have in Canada, you have in USA, you have the management accounting bodies. If you look at the history of the management accounting bodies, they were really set up as cost accountants or cost accounting bodies during the time of the Industrial Revolution to help the industrial sector. Today it has developed and taken large strides and has been able to do a great service, and many of the bodies are now referred to as management accounting. But I still feel that one of the main areas that the management accounting profession can play a role is in the cost accounting area. If you look at the initial stages, we really were self-funded. In fact, I remember, as I told you, the Honorable Kingsley Vikramaratne, when I spoke to him, he said, Lakshman, you don't ask money for me, but I will try to help you. I will give you a letter to the Canadian High Commission. You go and see them, and I am sure they will help you. So I took this letter and went and saw them, and they had the seat at that time, and they were prepared to give us a grant. Because at that time I had made links with CMA Canada. Of course, we could make links with the UK body because they were here, and they were the main management accounting body that had been there for maybe about 30 years. So, with that in mind, the CMA Canada agreed to help us, to give us the technical assistance to set up this body, and in the latter part of 1999, once we got the grant, we went there and we prepared all our syllabuses, examinations, everything with the assistance of CMA Canada, and up to date they have been helping us and moderating our question papers in order that we could attain the global standards that we are talking about. So this, I think, is a big thing that we have done, because we know the difficulties that the governments have. They are unable to provide most of these finances, but we are able to work out ways and means. In fact, when CEDA asked for the proposal, one of the reasons they asked is, are you able to sustain yourself once you are set up? Of course, fortunately for me, I was the one who set up the AAT, today one of the most successful accounting organizations, which was set up even without a cent, with our own personal effort which we did. Today having their own land and buildings, which were all invested by us after safeguarding and looking after those properties. So they were able to, and they were convinced that we were able to set up such bodies and run it without any sort of further assistance once the initial grant is given. So this, I think, was the start of it. And I am indeed happy and especially thankful to the Canadian government for this assistance that they gave us, which is really helping a large number of youth in this country. And at the inauguration ceremony that was held on 3rd June 2000, we had two ministers at that time, the Honorable King Smriti Vikramaratne and Professor D.L. Peiris, who were present, and Professor D.L. Peiris today is one of our advisory members, and we thank him for all the support that they have given us. Then, of course, in 2009, 10 years since we were formed, we were able to make steady progress, and we were able to get ourselves incorporated by an Act of Parliament. This, I think, was a historic event, because this was the first time that the management accounting body was recognized by the government of Sri Lanka. So this means that today we will be able to assist the government in various methods that will be there, which I will maybe speak later. Actually, on the 18th of March, Honorable Bandru Gunawardena, who was the minister at that time, presented the bill in Parliament, and it was debated for half a day and unanimously approved. And we are very happy that the CMA was set up at the Institute of Certified Management Accountants of Sri Lanka, where from society we changed it to the Institute of Certified Management Accountants